Hi, welcome back. I'd like to show how we can texture underneath objects in the Giants editor for FS25. We'll start off with a blank map and we'll look for an object to cast. I think somewhere over here, this one I think. We have some railroads and would like to fill in some texture underneath. First off, we can go to the procedural placement window, we go to scripts and we add a new script. We're going to cast objects to a mask. We'll only need one argument, and that is nodes, the actual nodes we want to texture underneath of. Next up, let's cast our objects. We need our nodes. We also want recursive. We want the child nodes of this one to be cast as well. And lastly, we'll start out with one. We can add higher values if you want less detail in our casts. We'll save this as a new object, a generated road mask. And I think we can use the debug function to see what it looks like. That we had to pass in some arguments. Mask name. We'll have a look at an example. No debug masks over here. They do in the US. This is the one we're looking for. So we can go back to the script we were editing. I want to debug my new road mask, and I'm call it road mask. Save. Now we can create a new rule over here. We'll call it generate road masks. We need to select our script. It was auto selected because it's the last one in the list. We select our objects. We click add selected. So now our script is configured to receive the nodes. We'll click apply. We'll go over our script again. We have one argument. Yeah, we just filled it in. The road nodes. We're going to create a new mask. We're going to cast our nodes. We're going to include children, and we're going to use 1 meter as the distance. We're going to add a debug mask called gen road mask with the value we just created. And the last parameter binary, no idea what it does. This looks fine. We can click on save. We have our rule over here. We can click debug masks. It should generate a new mask over here. And if we click any info pane and we click on this mask, it takes a while to load, but it should show us where the actual mask is. I'll zoom in a little bit. And when we go back to an info panel and we select our mask, it will start loading again, and we see we have a mask underneath our terrain. So we want to fill in that part with a texture. First up, the mask that is generated, we'd like to save it to a file so we can reuse it to texture stuff. So back to our script, instead of debugging, we can save our mask. It's expecting a file name. We'll call it the same, gen road mask, and the mask we want to save. But I think it's expecting the full path, so we should do something like this. This is my project folder, but I have a subdirectory data and masks. This is where I want the new generated mask to be placed. We need to escape the backslashes. Maybe forward slashes might work too. Over here. So That's the location where we want to save our mask. We can run our rule again, but instead of just doing the debug mask, we can say place objects. We see that there is a problem with saving our mask. So we'll need to check what we're doing or what we're doing wrong. Doesn't know which format to save the mask to. We can say it's an image and it should help the editor out. Okay, ready. The mask generation is quite quick. So now we have an image with an underlay of where our objects are in the scene. We can go to masks and we can re-import the same image. We're in the same folder, data masks. We want to use our new road mask and we'll call it same as a file. We click on apply. We go to rules. We add a new rule to texture our roads. We're going to choose scatter in mask. Going to choose our new road mask. Add an object. Over here we can select our textures or our layers. We're going to fill it with a gravel layer because it's terrains. We can press apply, press place objects, and it should load our new mask. We close this info view. We can see that now our terrain is painted with gravel underneath the train rails. It shows funky with the height, but it's only a visual glitch in the editor. Maybe let's confirm that. I think when I save my project and we reload the editor, it should have disappeared. Anyway, you won't ever see it in game. Okay, and we're back. Now we can see how cleanly the texture was filled in. This is perfect, but the edge is a little bit small. Maybe you would like the texture to fade in to the grass around it a little bit more. So we're going to try that. First up, we reloaded the map. Let's save our project. It helps for the stability of the procedural placement tools. You also notice the first time it takes a while. That's what needs to happen before the procedural placement tools can run, because it's also saving the masks. Okay, we can go back to procedural placement, to our script, the one we created earlier, this one. We have our general road mask. Now we can create a new road mask for the borders, and we'll say distance. Assign distance mask, perfect. We'll create a new one, and it expects a source mask. We'll start from our roads. We want them completely filled. This means white, so we want to mask out the whole border we're creating, and the border is going to be about 6 white. I think this is meters, I'm not sure. So now we have a new mask. We can debug it in the debug view. We'll call this our border mask. Still, we can save this. When we go back to rules, we don't need to change anything, but we can press debug masks, and it should generate our new debug mask over here, the road border mask. When we go look at our rails, we open an info view and we press the road border mask. It takes a while to load, but now you can see we created a new border around the actual rail tracks. When we go to our masks folder, we don't have a new file yet because we still have to save it, but it's the same thing we did before with a save mask. We can save our new border mask with this name. Now we're repeating ourselves. Let's not do that. Let's keep our code clean. We're going to take this location, which is our mask path, and we'll join the string. Make sure it ends with the slashes. If you don't add them over here, we'll use the mask location folder and we'll add just the file name we need over here. And then we can do the same thing for every time we're going to save a mask. Okay, so now we create a road mask, we debug it, we save it, and we do the same thing for the border mask. We'll save it, go back to rules, we rerun our placement. Actually takes a while. We can go back to our folder, and now we can see we have our road mask and we have our borders. If we open these files and we switch between them, we see we have the underlay of the actual rails and we have the new border file. We can now fill in the border with another texture, or actually we are already filling in this one with dirt. So it maybe let's set it up first. Road border. No, before we do this, we just generated a new mask, but we still need to import it. So let's add our mask first. Road border. Click apply. Now we have our border mask available. We can say we want to texture our road border. We're going to select scattering mask because we want to fill a texture in our new road border mask. We'll add a texture to actually give it something to fill. And we'll say we'll use the small one for this, the gravel small. Place objects and it should fill our border with small gravel. Perfect. Now we have a border around our roads, but it still looks very awkward with this line. So if we can smooth it out a little bit, it will look way nicer. And that's what we can do with these values. Right now, we filled it all the way from the start, so from the edge where the border starts, until the end. If we say over here, we make it 0, it will start full opacity over here, and it will fade out to 0 opacity on the edge of the 6 meter border. So if you save this and we regenerate our rolls, now we should see a fade from the small gravel. Only problem is it doesn't know what to fade to, because there is no layer underneath. But there was grass earlier. No, every time you run a procedural placement, actually it's refreshing the terrain, and so it's clearing it. There is no base layer underneath this. So we can fix it by actually adding a base layer. For that, we need a mask with the base. Because right now, when we look at the border mask, you see it's not updated. I need to save my project in the editor and it will save the new masks. I think. Yeah. This tool doesn't want to work with me. We'll just do it over here. We want to create two variations of our border. One is completely filled and one has the fade. For the filled one, we'll say from white to white and the other one from white to black. Now we're also going to save them both. We actually don't need the debug mask anymore. So now we're creating two border files. We'll save this, we'll rerun our rules and see if everything is working, and at least our mask files are being generated. Okay. We have a road border mask, we have road mask, we have road border mask filled and faded. Now, when we go back to our references, we're only creating 3 files, road mask and faded and filled. Maybe the border that we were using over here, let's remove it completely. Press apply. Also save the project, and we don't need the road border anymore. Let's keep our files clean. Okay, now we can add our 2 new masks. Our road border faded. and our filled border. Press apply, it will generate the masks. Go back over here, we have a road border to fill it with gravel, but we need to add another road border with something to fade out to use the scattering mask again. Now with our road border mask filled, we're going to add a texture of grass, because that is what is around it. Press apply. We'll have to check our border again because this mask has changed names. Now we need to select the faded one. So we'll also move this one up there because they are run in order. First we want to paint the whole border with grass. That's this layer. And then we will fade out from here to here with the gravel layer. Apply, and we can press place objects. And the editor created the fade out from one texture until the other. Maybe as a last step, we'll invert the border. Wouldn't it be nice if something was creeping from the outside in, foliage wise? So we'll go back to scripts. Let's create this inverted folder. There's something else we can use. We can just create a new mask. It expects base mask. Let's use our completely filled border. And for the operator, we'll say we'll take this border and we'll subtract the faded border we used earlier, or we created earlier. And we'll save this mask as an inverted border. So we have a mask, we have the one mask minus the other mask. It's possible that the values will be lower than 0. We don't really want that. So we're just going to clamp the border. Clamped mask. And it expects our mask. Minimum value would be black and white. After we have done that, we still need to save our new inverted border to our same project location and save. Let's reread the code. We create a new variable with our mask from the filled mask we created earlier, but we subtract the fade from here to here. We clamp to our new values, and then we save this object to our new file called inverted. Perfect. Save place objects. Should create our new masks. We can come look at our folder, and we don't see the new file, so that's interesting. What would we do wrong? Can we run it all again? Are we sure our new script is loaded? No, we're not creating files. So I would expect, let's use the debug again to see if something is wrong with the file we are creating. Wait a minute, the create mask and no looks wrong. Let's have a quick look at another example from the base SDK where they use the operators, for example over here. .new, this looks the same. We have a clamp mask. I think we're doing the right things. Maybe capital localization. Let's try that. Go back to our folders, and now we have the new image created. So indeed, capitalization is important. This is wrong. This is right. Okay, now we create our new inverted mask. We should see when we zoom in on it. It should finally work. That it fades out, but in the other direction, from the outside in to the train tracks. When we go to our editor, we first save our script. We know what to do. We need to add a new mask. Try to make this readable. We have our inverted mask. We'll call it the same. We've seen enough textures. Let's do something else. We'll go to the objects. We'll go to foliage, add foliage. I think we have some grasses over here. These are bushes. Maybe in meadow, green middle. Sure, why not? Let's give it a name, press apply. Go back to our rules. Instead of a texture, inverted, we're going to add foliage. We're going to select still or scattering mask, because instead of a texture, we just want to completely fill our mask with some foliage. We select, instead of a texture, our newly created meadow object. We press apply, we press generate. And now we have some foliage blended from the outside fading into our tracks, so our tracks will be clear, but the farther away you go, the more foliage there will be. It actually worked really great with the corner here. So that's about it. Have fun.